All right, yeah, we just have some people. All right, awesome. We got some a financial services series webinar. We took a little bit of a break um, from just this format. We still had a couple meetings, but we took a little bit of break, I guess, from the summer vacation. We have a really good guest today, and I'm excited to get into the topic. It's one that's really important. It's kind of like right in line with the business I'm involved in, which is employee benefits, and also at a crossroads with my work with the chamber. So this one really means a lot to me. Um, some housekeeping, right, before we jump in. So we got some upcoming events. Please, just so you know, I'm in the Kennedy Center, about to enjoy the Lion King play. So, just, we see people walk around the background. That's what that's about. But just some upcoming events and announcements. We have a networking event tomorrow at 5 p.m. at MWBC Shop Local. Come in, spend some time with us, and just network. The next thing we have elevating your brand. And Melissa, could you drop the link to that inside the registration for that inside the chat? Also, we have coming up is Money Smart for Small Business, hosted by the SBA. That's going to be on August 2nd at 2 p.m. Those are that's like our upcoming events. Um, if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, we just relaunched a new format to our newsletter. We're putting a lot more content in our newsletter. You can subscribe to our newsletter. Melissa will have the link to subscribing to our newsletter in there as well. It's the best way to stay informed what's going on with us. We communicate to our mailing list and our members. A lot of information gets passed there. Also, new website is up and running. So this is a chance to kind of like we've been talking about that for a while, the new website format. And with that being said, we'll be highlighting in our newsletter some of our members. So if you're interested in highlighting your business, go ahead and reach out to info@marylandbcc.org with a bio of your business, and we'll see who will select to highlight on our membership highlight page on our website. Also, just to upstate, we just came back from the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce event. It was a good event. They hosted a president's cabinet meeting for us down in Washington, D.C. We got to meet with some of the president's cabinet, and also Joe Biden made an appearance. It was a good experience with the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce. So a lot going on. Just another opportunity to tell everyone that they should, if you're not a member, this is a great time to become a member. You also include that in the link. All right, we're going to launch a poll. I always like to get an idea of our audience and who we have joining us. So, Melissa, could you go ahead and launch that poll? Let's go ahead and launch that poll. All right, so I got 4 questions there. Are you a member of the chamber? Yes or no? Do you own a business? Yes or no? And this is the next couples are in line with our topic today. Do you currently hire 1099 workers? Right? Is that the main part? Do you have W-2 employees? And if you do, what size? And if you're the only person that works for your company, that's then select that option. Now, the reason why this is important is, and I mentioned this earlier, is this topic is right in line, not only with the business that I do, which is employee benefits, but also with we got 6 out of 10 to participate. We'll wait a little bit longer to give everybody a chance to answer the question, but also with the work we do at the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce, right? And hiring employees is extremely important to a local economy, to a national economy, to just even a business at itself. you know, the important job creation, what we always hear about the job numbers, job creation, it creates economic growth in the community. And also, we're talking about Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce. It creates economic growth for Maryland residents. It reduces unemployment. It's a very strong tool for wealth distribution. It reduces dependency on government support. Um, it provides social stability. You provide jobs, you lower crimes. Um, and it also is good for your business to grow your business. Not only does it increase productivity, it also adds some innovation to your business, which is very important for business growth. Um, but this is something like again, and we can go ahead and end the poll, and I'll jump into some stats on Black business as it comes to, and I'll share the results with everyone. But so we got 5 people that are members. I mean, 3 people that are members and 5 that are not members. You 5 that are not members. Um, you 5 that are not members. Uh, thank you. Do you 5 that are not members? This is a good time to join. Do you own your business? Yes, we have 8 business owners in there. 1099 workers is like it's split. Some of them 4 say they don't have 1099 workers. About another 50% say they do. Do you have W-2 employees? Yeah, we got about 4 people that have W-2 employees. So this is going to be a good webinar for you. If you have 11 to 20 employees, we got one person in there who has 11 to 20 employees. And we have one person, no, 3 people, they're the only person that's working for their company. All right, I'll share those results with you guys. So real quick, some stats. So last fall, the U.S. Census Bureau, they released their 2021 annual business survey. I've been following that for a while, and it's covering information from the 2020 census. And it's showing that an estimated 140,000 Black-owned businesses with employees that are in the country. Those total, they earn about $141 billion annually, and they employ 1.3 million workers. And they describe anybody, a Black business, that the owner is 51% or more of ownership is owned by a Black person. But according to Brookings Institute, Blacks, they only comprise 2.3% of all employer firms, and we make up 14.2% of the population. So we're going to get into a little bit of why that may be, right? But also why that's important. Some additional stats on Black-owned businesses and employment. Black businesses, they have relatively small payroll. Roughly 2/3 of Black-owned business had fewer than 10 employees in 2020. They were talking about 66%. We had 66%. 14% had about 10 to 49, and only 3% had 50% or more. Now, this is the stat that really stands out to me. 17% of majority Black-owned businesses reported no employees at all. All right, so that's a huge stat. So most of our businesses have less than 10 employees. So we're talking really small businesses, and then a large percentage of them don't have any employees at all. And I want to share something with you that stood out to me. This is a stark illustration of the impact of having job creation in your community, right? So this is from a website called Black Demographics, and it's just a stat. It's just based off of census data. This one, they haven't updated since 2017, but for white-owned employers, they create 56.8 million jobs in our country. They can employ 39% of all working white age adults in the country with an annual revenue of $11.6 trillion. And with those stats, they have enough revenue that they could pay every working age white adult a salary of $80,000 a year. All right, just showing the comparisons of what having a entrepreneurial and creating jobs in your community can do for your community. Now let's look. We can go and see Asian. They can pay roughly 65,000 for every Asian, 11,000 for every Hispanic. But take a look at where we lack. We're in the Black community. If they had to pay a salary to every Black uh, working adult in the country, they would only be able to pay a salary of $4,842. So I just want to highlight that of why it's important that we have job creation in our business, right? It's something that we did kind of like skim over, you know. We're going to talk a little bit about why that is in a little bit. I just want to share. I know that's a little bit bad news, but here's the good news, right? This is from um, the Brookings Institute, and it says Black or African Americans owned business made up a greater share from firms of DC, Georgia, and Maryland in 2020. So our area, our region, we are taking the lead in the country as far as Black-owned businesses in the country. So that's to me, that made me feel good. That made me feel good. We're in the right, and with the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce. So we have a responsibility to be a leader across the country and set a model and an example for business across. So we're going to jump right in. Our guest today is Trevor Allen. He's from ADP. He has been a member of the chamber, and he has been helping some of our businesses. He's been, communicating with me for a while. This is something that we wanted to get. So, Trevor, thank you for joining us. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about? I always like to get an idea of our guests, just their background. Tell us a little bit about your background, what you do, and how did you get to the position that you're in now?
Of course. And I really appreciate that, not only that insight, Nelson, but the work that the chamber does. And as you mentioned, as someone who's well-traveled and has been a professional and seen the Black community and how they do business and the state of their business outside of this area, it is very, very important to have these kinds of webinars and these kinds of conversations with our Black business owners.
Exactly.
And especially in this area, I said we're leading forward. But yes, appreciate the introduction, and I appreciate you guys for having me today and for taking some time to talk about something that is quite important and near and dear to me, as obviously, similar to Nelson, this is very in line with what I do on a day-to-day. But I'm a product of a small business owner in Prince George's County myself. Allen's Lawn and Tree Service. My father is for years and years and years, and I got to grow up and see the struggles of what it is to be a small business owner, and then what that does to your time. You're always on. I know a lot of y'all can resonate with that. So after I graduated college, I spent some time with Staples Corporate and working with other businesses, and then I ended up
All right, looks like we're having a little bit of trouble. Trevor, it looks like we're having a little bit of trouble with your connectivity.
Any kind of a sales call or anything like that. I'm very privileged to be in my position, not only for businesses, but specifically different pockets of businesses, different industries. We're able to have these conversations and kind of give you an idea of how things are trending and how to better protect yourself and what's coming down the pipe. So I have a unique viewpoint as to how to help small businesses and what's important to you all, especially in this area. So it's an added benefit for me to be able to give any kind of advice I can. And obviously at the end of the day, and because of where I work, if you have any questions or if you're looking for a solution or a better solution, you can always count on me. I'm just up the street. So I appreciate being here, and I'm very excited to get into human capital management as it is. It's a broad term, but we'll kind of chop it up as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had some conversations about this very same topic, and one of the things that you helped bring to my attention is some of the effects of a business, right? Not only just like on a micro level, but on a macro level. What do you want to talk a little bit about? What are the effects if you, as an employer, not having employees, whether they're 1099s and they maybe should be W-2 employees, or just not having employees in general? What have you experienced and seen?
So a lot of people, a lot of times it starts off with a dream, right? And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here. A lot of you all went to
Right.
business. Speaking, just personal experience. My father, the guy can look at a tree 2 miles away and tell when the exact date and time is going to die. And then I can see
Wow.
I seen the guy turn a forest into beautiful mulched lawn. But at the end of the day, that's the end of fate, right? That's just the work that makes work not work. Still own a business, and starting off, the man he would cut grass himself and landscape himself till he can get grow the business, scale the business. Now he had my mom out there with him. Now he had a contractor that he worked with. Then he had started having employees, right? And for a lot of people and obviously just speaking in our area, especially Black-owned businesses, they kind of start with the dream and putting in the 80, 90, 100-hour weeks themselves, right? So the goal is to have the knowledge and the wherewithal to not have to do that as much and to scale your business as quickly as possible so that we can get that number from the 4,600 for every Black adult, a lot higher. We can climb that rest of that statistic that Nelson showed. What we see a lot of times is that people's dreams only gets them so far, and having the work, have to do all the work on not only what you got in it for, but also the back end,
right?
You're having to learn the financial side of things, and the invoices and using financial softwares. You're having to learn how to hire and do all those things that come with all that, from hire to fire. And so we're here to speak about human capital management, but just even outside of that part, whatever your industry is, you're going to have to do those, but also the business things. And for a lot of times with no employees, that's hard because you're doing everything yourself. Even with employees, it's even harder because now you're responsible for not even someone else's well-being, whether it be contractor or 1099. I know depending on your industry, a lot of times if you have contractors, if they're sometimes they depend on that work and other people contracting them out to have their their self-employment. So it's a struggle no matter what, but it only gets more and more. And the reason that we have this conversation, the reason that the chamber is doing the good work they're doing is that you guys, we can get these resources out to you all business owners so you don't have to make the mistake first to learn.
So one of the things in our conversation that you kind of highlighted and kind of really made me think, that is a really important aspect that as an employer you should be considering, right? A lot of the people I work with, they have 1099 employees, and you might have this in your own back, and you might see it in your own business, right? For the people in our audience, that you may have a good relationship with that 1099 contractor. They might be a 1099 contractor with you for a while, but what you said to me is, let's say your business struggles, like in the pandemic, right? And now you maybe not be able to keep that 1099 worker. What's the impact to that worker now, Trevor? Like now that they can no longer work with you?
Yeah, this for that particular contractor, especially, I'm assuming they're classified correctly, and that's a whole other thing we can get into at a later date. For that contractor, they're having to go out of their way to find more work because at the end of the day, they're claiming self-employment taxes. So say if I'm dependent, since using my father's example, say he had a guy named Orban, he had a crew, and they would come in on the bigger jobs, and I can just imagine the impact that made on not only him and his crew's lives. And this is just one of his people that he worked with, right? He had like 4 or 5 people that he was contracted worked out. And if you take away that source of income from them, that has a trickle down effect, right? And that's just the nature of a lot of things. It's very cyclical, unfortunately, but the goal here is to not plateau in your progress and to not take steps back in your progress. So to be informed enough to maintain the business, but also to delegate the things that may be giving you sleepless nights, and to make sure that you have, I always like to say when I'm meeting with clients or potential clients, is that, I mean, our job is to put more time back into your day to grow your business and to those revenue generating activities, right? I mean, if you're
Exactly.
worrying about, oh, damn, I don't have enough work for my contractors or my W-2s, or how am I going to meet payroll this week? Or, hey, I got to, for lack of a better term, rob Peter to pay Paul. When it comes to those, especially those gig workers, that becomes more of a stressor on you, and you're not putting that time back into finding the work and collecting receivables and things of that nature. So it really has a trickle down effect for those contracted employees. But just, like I said, that's the reason we're here, to make sure that you are empowered with that information beforehand.
And the one thing that you did bring to my attention is that they may not qualify for unemployment insurance now, right? Like that's a to me that's a
Yeah.
huge
So
thing, right?
to touch on compliance, for all of you out there, and some of you may know, a lot of you may know, but the unemployment insurance is, as a business owner, is your only controllable tax rate. Now, COVID made it a lot more difficult for business owners, because now your average person not only knows where to go to claim unemployment, and some of them were making, I would say, not even some of them, a lot of them were making more money on unemployment than when they were, just going to work. And so they're not hesitant to file for unemployment before. And that's the one thing that can shoot up your unemployment rates. Now, 1099 contractors a lot of times do not qualify for unemployment because they're not W-2 employees. Because as a business, you're not paying any employer taxes on them, because they pay a self-employment tax at the end of the year. But that is a big thing, because unemployment claims have been skyrocketing, and wrongful termination suits have been going up as well. So that's, like I said, the trends that we're starting to see, and that's a big factor due to people's familiarity with their state's unemployment system, and them understanding what they can get from the government when it comes to unemployment. And that unfortunately hurts the business, because unless you have something in place, you're having to fight a wrongful unemployment claim that they may not be entitled to, and that's going to shoot up your unemployment rate. So your employer taxes are going up for those things.
So let me ask you another question, right? Because I think the big question for business owners is, I think, especially in our community, I think sometimes we're intimidated by taking that step and that process to bring on workers and bring on employees into our workforce, right? Or add additional personnel. How can a business owner know, all right, it's time for me to add on either my first employee or add on some more additional employees? How can a business owner know, like, what that time is? What have you seen in your work, like, as a good indicator for a business owner to see when it's time to scale up?
Hiring is scary, and never scarier than today. I mean, I'm sure everyone sees what they call the war on talent and everything, but we see a number of different things, right? So it's always been hard to find that all-star employee, and then not even harder to keep them. Say if you're owner only at the moment and you're considering hiring employees, but you're maybe afraid of having a consistent work for them, right? That was a big thing for my dad.
Yeah.
Having consistent work. So you may be going out and looking for 1099 contractors for different things. And then that's completely understandable. I think the biggest thing to alleviate that is transparency, right? So you're not going to get that all-star employee and give them pitch in this dream. They're starting to do work, and then work drops off and you can't pay. There's not enough work to pay 1 month, and for them that breaks the level of trust. So it's almost like you're bringing in someone to your circle and your family, and then at the end of the day, your business is your baby. So you're putting that baby's hands. You're letting someone hold it when you're adding employees. So I would just say is just try to be as transparent as possible with potential employees, and it's always going to be a risk, but don't take unnecessary risks, right? So I know, so that goes with a number of different things. A lot of people have a lot of things in place, whether it be background checks or drug screenings and things like that. And I don't mean those kinds of risks. Obviously, you don't want someone who's going to be drinking on the job every day, but I think just not taking unnecessary risks in the sense of just hiring the first person that says yes, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think a good indicator to most business owners, like when you want to hire your first employee, is when you're missing on opportunities, right? When you miss that email that says, "Hey, I would love to do work with you," or you can't complete the work. I think a lot of business owners don't realize that might be an indicator for you to kind of like take some of the responsibilities off your plate, so that you can kind of go. I have a buddy of mine that owns a CPA firm, and he says business owners, you should be spending your time on the $1,000 an hour work, right? That's the work you want to be spending your time on hour. And then, you hire employees to do the work, but their hourly wage is, whether it's $30 an hour, $40 an hour, but you want to make sure that you are you're spending your time on the revenue generating activities.
yeah, and
So
and just to
I
just to add
go
on
ahead.
that really quick, sorry to cut you off there, but a
No, it's all good.
big factor is, and what we see time and time again is people hire when it's too late sometimes, right? Say my business, and we see it
Good point.
all the time. A small business can turn into a medium-sized business like that within a matter of months. Within a matter of weeks, sometimes I've seen,
Great
say
point.
you get a big contract, or say you all of a sudden, someone features you on TikTok or something like that. You never know. Who knows? All of a sudden you have orders more than you can do with, and now you're
Right.
having to hire, 3, 4, 5 people, sometimes even more. All of a sudden, that's when it's a little risky because I don't have the
Right.
proper things in place. I don't know. I've never had to hire before, or say even if you have employees, even if that person who's in the 11 to 20 range, right? Say similar thing. The business skyrockets. Now you have to hire 20 more. That adds another level of compliance, and you want to have those things in place. And I understand you may not have the steady workflow, but you need to know what to do. That's the important thing. You need to know, like, say, hey, if this happens in the next, hey, my dream. I know my
That's a
dream is
great
okay.
point.
I need to know if I need to hire 2, 3 people in a matter of a month. I know I can go to this company. I know this is what they need from me. I know around what the pricing is, and it's just arming yourself with better information. So I felt like I need to say that, Nelson, because that is something we see all the time.
So and let's talk a little bit. Let's stay there for a little bit, right? Because um, let's talk about that process, right? Because one of the things this is a financial services affinity group, right?
Mhm.
So it's one main for members of the chamber who are in that services, but it's also for businesses and business owners who may need some of those services. So it's all about helping our businesses build, or know who they should have in their corner. Like, what's the team they should have? So, what are some of the resources if you're a business owner, right? And you're thinking about scaling, you're hoping to scale, you might be in the process of growth. What are the resources and the people you should have on your team, like whether they're partners, vendor partners, or people inside your company that help you prepare for that process?
Of course. It's always good to have a trusted banking partner, I'd say. Uh,
Okay.
that's first foremost. I mean, I always recommend a bookkeeper or accountant. I know sometimes people kind of wait till it's too late sometimes, or wait till when they need something. I always think that's always good to have, no matter how big the business is or small the business is. Bookkeeper, accountant, and I guess I'll just get into what your options are. As you're looking to have that infrastructure for human capital management, since that's kind of what we're here to talk about a little bit as well. So,
Right.
you really have 3 main options when it comes to that HCM, infrastructure, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
One, you can, and I'll outlay the pros and cons of each one. I'll be pretty brief. And if you have any questions, or have any experience, throw that in the chat, please. But one, we see a lot of times people start off and they'll do it themselves, right? Whether it be primarily through QuickBooks or another financial software, where they're keeping their P&Ls and their financial software, and then they also have payroll functionality with that software as well.
Right.
And the pro is that you have full control. It integrates fully with everything you're all doing. So I mean, typically it's one sign on for at least the financial services type side of things. And the big con is that so the liability side of things. All right. So if you are late on something, if you add an extra zero to something, that's fine. That discrepancy is all on you. And then you're enlisting the help of maybe a bookkeeper or accountant. Say, hey, I need some help here, and that might be a little outside of most people's price range of what they're willing to pay. But
That's true.
it works for them, and like I said, you have that control, and I've seen people that start on QuickBooks and then scale to other in-house softwares, and then they'll hire HR personnel or they hire a payroll person, and they'll keep all those things in-house and create jobs that way. So that is an option. I mean, you're paying salaries and things like that. But I think the biggest pro, you have the control. Biggest con is that you all also have all the liability. The second option is to really go through a financial partner like an accountant. A lot of times they'll do all the financials for you. They'll do the payroll. They'll do the W-2 1099s at the end of the year. I know a lot of accountants I know and I work with have bundled packages. That is also a pro too. I mean, if you're looking, like I said, fully outsourced, I don't want to deal with it. You send me the checks or you send them direct deposit. That's great. And also at the end of the day, you also have all my financials because you're doing all that for me. So, we'll just pay you your fee and you'll get that going. So that also has some benefits for a lot of people. I'd say the biggest con there is that accountants hate doing payroll and HR and stuff like that. And a lot of times they'll some sort of something like a for lack of a better term, middleman in the sense that they may still use QuickBooks, they may still use a software like ADPs, but just do that stuff for you and then bundle it in as a package. So they tend not to like doing that though, because not especially during tax season where they have everything else they got to do and they're still doing that for your business. So it can get a little testy, and then also sometimes it may be a little hard to, I guess, get that extra level of customer service for certain things because they're so bogged down with everything.
Right.
And
I can see that.
And then the last thing is, fully outsourcing the human capital management side of things, whereas you're still handling the financials, you still have that control of everything. But when it comes to the hiring, firing, HR, payroll, things like that, having a system like ADP's, I know we have Heartland as a member, and Paycheck's another competitor. Like I said, I'm not here to sell any of you guys, but just kind of give you the options and information. The biggest pro with that is that outsourcing the payroll, we take the full liability. So say if there's something's late, if there's extra zero, we are on the hook with the IRS. We're on the hook with the state because we have a power we have power of attorney for the tax liability for things of that nature. It's also putting your best foot forward with how your company is presented. I say if you send me a link on my first day, say fill out everything and get it done before you come in, or like it says ADP, it says Paycheck, it says Heartland. And so, okay, all right, well, I feel more confident that I'm going to get paid on time because it's going through, outside source, as opposed to, just kind of heading checks or Zelle or things of that nature. It kind of it enhances the level of credibility for an employee and the business. And I mean, that's an easy segue to what Nelson does as well. Speaking on how the company is presented, not only on top of the payroll HR side of things, if someone has to acknowledge an HR handbook, if someone has to, fill out their W-4 and then, print out and fill out their I-9 before their first day, it makes it more of a, career oriented thing as opposed to like a gig or a job for an employee. Even going into the benefits, if you're looking for how to put your best foot forward for an employee and what that presents to them. I don't want to step on Nelson's toes there, but he knows all about, how that looks for an employee.
No, that's definitely. And I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, I think, business owners I work with a lot of business owners. I know we live in the age of Amazon, right? You want to be able to go the same place and buy the same place you buy your electronics. You want to buy your clothes, it's like a one-stop shop all for everything. I get that. But I think there's an advantage to having people who specialize in certain areas to have them on your team, right? I always make the example. Do you want your dentist doing your open heart surgery? Right? You know what I mean? So I think having people on your team who know what they're doing, they specialize and they're good at what they do, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that brings me to my next question is, because, just based off of our poll, we have some people who have employees, just 1099s. Some people who have more than 10 employees, some people who don't. But if someone was thinking about what that process looks like, if they want to take that step, because I know from our statistics, majority of our members are solo entrepreneurs, um, and those statistics that we saw from Black demographics, I think they might be a little bit inflated. I don't have the stats or the numbers to prove that, but I think most people just have a 1099 employee. And you touch a little bit on the compliance of that, but just talk about what, because I think most people are intimidated by the process. But working with someone who specializes in that process, can you talk about what that process looks like? And is it really difficult to bring on board an employee? Like, talk about the process, maybe how quick it can happen, and maybe how much is labor is really involved in that process. Let's take some of the myth around. I'll check out some of the myths around like hiring an employee. So, let's
Yeah.
deal with that a little bit.
And that's a great question, Nelson. That's something that, especially for new businesses or people who are looking to hire for the first time, taking that step is intimidating, especially going into it without maybe knowing as much as you'd like, right? Having someone, I think first and foremost, having someone who's a real person, not like a 1-800 number, is probably the best course of action, because setting up your business for success when you're starting to pay is the easiest way to avoid having any issues come filing time. So just to give a broad overview, because every business is different, right? So say if you're looking to just bring on W-2 employees or grow that base, right? Because for 1099s, it's very easy. You just have some sort of software where you can pay them, and there's a lot of different ones out there. You can even do that through your bank. You can do that through your accountant. I mean, I've seen people. You can even do business checks and then just have their accountants in the totals at the end of the year. So there's a lot of different ways to pay only 1099s. But once you get into say if you have a part-time or full-time, or even if you're just looking to pay yourself as a W-2, the process, I can see how it is intimidating, but it really isn't. You just have to, depending on what state you're operating in, some states, if speaking of Maryland, obviously. So, but I know a lot of people in the Maryland business owners also have employees in DC, Virginia, some even Pennsylvania, depending on how far you are. So the biggest thing is making sure that you have the proper state tax IDs. So that's typically going to be the state unemployment insurance ID, which for Maryland, it's a 5-minute process, and you get the ID on the spot. Not a big deal at all. I for anybody who's looking for any resource or have any questions that's going through that process, or maybe who are with maybe QuickBooks or an accountant or even the ADP or another outsource and doesn't have that yet, talk to me. I can help you get that. Not a problem. The other thing is for those states who have income tax, which all those surrounding ones do, you're going to need the state income tax ID for all the states where your W-2 employees are living. For DC, that's kind of a pain, but same here. If you have any issues, let me know. But yeah, so doing the application for those take anywhere from 4 to 10 minutes, and then sometimes they'll mail it to you within a week. Sometimes you get the ID on the spot, but just making sure that you have the proper wherewithal to know you need those before you start off is really important. The process of hiring, that's a whole other thing, and a lot of people go about that different ways. But as it pertains to like the human capital management and like the infrastructure side of things, no matter what platform you're using, you're just going to want to make sure you have your state IDs, and then you're going to want to make sure that you have the platform set up, whether it be through your account, through QuickBooks, or through ADP, and that process takes 24 to 48 hours after we get some documents signed, some business information sent over, and that process is rather easy. So I hope that answered your question. But like I said, every business is a little different.
Yeah.
They need. It's just the biggest thing is just understanding that the compliance things it should be first, not anything else. Some people tell you, it's not a big deal. We can just get this over. We can have the account set up today. I would steer clear of people like that because they're just trying to get their their quota or what have you.
Yeah, and I know this is always pretty like a complex question to answer because every scenario is different. But I think another big part of the hurdle that business owners have to get through is they always think about the cost, right? That it's going to cost so much more that if I switch this employee from a 1099 to a W-2, that I'm not going to be able to afford it because there's just this myth that it's so much more expensive.
Yeah.
So one, can you talk a little bit about that? Is that true? Is it really that much more expensive? And then two, if it is or if it's not, how can employees, what are some strategies that employers can use to kind of help prepare or plan or help manage that cost?
Yeah. And that is an important distinction to make, that once you go from 1099 to W-2, or once you start paying W-2s, I've had people who needed to pay their W-2s right away, and kind of held off on that because they realized that, oh, now I'm going to have to start paying employer taxes, or now I'm going to have something in place to house and to pay out my employees' information and stuff like that. So to answer your question plainly, yes and no. It is more expensive in the sense that you're having to pay the piper because Uncle Sam's always has to get there. So you are paying employer taxes. So you're matching the federal, you're matching the FICA, and then you're paying the unemployment on the employee as well. So that
Right.
typically, like I said, each case is different depending on your state unemployment rate, but it averages out to be about 9% of the
Okay.
salary per employee. And like I said, that's case by case, by depending on what your unemployment rate is and what state you're operating in, of course. But so I mean, I'll factor that in. So say if you're looking to say, hey, I'm looking to hire an employee, thinking about an average salary, maybe 40,000 a year, I definitely budget that, taking into consideration that 9% that you're having to pay in taxes, employer taxes. But the good thing is, on the flip side of that, not only you're doing things the right way, but a lot of people were kind of bit in the hind parts. So I couldn't think of a better analogy than that. But they're kind of bit when after COVID, they didn't have any W-2 employees on file and they couldn't claim the ERTC. So
Right.
we saw
Right.
a big uptick in people looking to do things and set things up because God forbid anything happen like that again, or not having that in place, that proof of payroll and proof of having employees can definitely be a hindrance for the business in the long run. So yes, you are paying more if you're just looking at what I'm paying now versus what I'm paying for employees after switching them over or starting to add employees. But you have to look at how the government views it, and also setting it up so that you have more peace of mind. Where it's like, listen, now I'm doing things above, not necessarily above board, but I'm doing things that's not only better for the business, but also better for my employees. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can get a lot of that back in the form of tax credits and things of that nature.
Yeah, and I always say that, that that same kind of rule of thumb around 9 to 10% is additional cost. But from what it is it does protect you. It does protect your employees. Um, and also, I think the strategy I always say is, hey, just think about when you're budgeting to hire an employee, right? Yeah, I think most people they budget up to say, hey, I want to pay someone a $60,000 salary, right? But I think now what you do is you say, take that whole budget and maybe use that for the entire process. So put some aside for payroll, taxes, and you may also want to start considering, because we even haven't talked about that. How do you keep the employees that you have now, right? Because you got them in the door, um, you know, and I've seen it in business. There's only so long you can keep an employee on 1099 before they say, I need some I
Yeah.
need some real income here. Um, but you can budget for it that way. Um, I know you briefly touched on compliance, but I don't want to just skip over that. You know, because I don't think a lot of our businesses realize the danger that they're in um, when they have employees that are 1099s that probably should be W-2s. So if you could just kind of, I know that could be a whole webinar probably in itself.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm actually doing
but
one
if
on
you could,
that specific topic later today.
yeah, but if you could just touch on it, I want to take some time for questions,
Sure.
but if you could just take 5 minutes and just talk about one, why that's so important, and maybe two, some of the like don't want to scare our audience, but just to be aware of what could be some of the penalties that come about if you're not careful and don't not doing things the right way.
Yeah, we if I can break character a little bit here, we have to say something in ADP as some of our uh, people have done called what they call the prison close, and I've never done that because I don't like to do that. But at the end of the day,
Right.
there it is serious, because you can
It
and
is.
what you want to do is everything you can to avoid an audit by the government, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason we're having these conversations. That's the reason that this information is available, and that's the reason I send collateral out to Ken Nelson and Melissa, month over month, is because they're making it year over year. They're making it easier to initiate an audit, whether it be with the mail-in retirement mandate that went into effect last September, whether it
Yeah, we
be
did a webinar on that.
yeah, whether it be with different classifications that they're amending, whether they're even amending how garnishments are supposed to be paid out, and making it penalizing people for not doing that the proper way. So
Mm-hmm.
it's easier and easier to initiate one, but the reality is, for people who've been in business for 20 plus years, paying people under the table, finally getting payroll set up, and they never had an issue, right? Lucky,
Right.
but it's possible to easily fly under the radar. The the penalties, like I said, it's case by case, but the penalties range anywhere from 200 per to 5,000 per misclassified or you know illegally paid employee, so to speak. And it depends on the case, of course, and the severity of the audit. So that gives you an idea of what the scale can easily be. And the rule of thumb for the IRS typically is they go back 3 years, right? So if you've been in business longer than 3 years, then you're kind of leaving yourself open. If you're relatively new and you're getting an audit within your first 3 years, and I would say just unlucky, and probably should have gotten this call sooner. But I mean, like I said, that's really the severity can be thousands and thousands of dollars per employee per year for misclassification or paying them the wrong way. So the kind of reason my company exists, to be honest. Like I said, we pay one in five employees, and especially for those
Mm-hmm.
W-2s, you want to have that protection, so you're, as we mentioned before, spending time on that revenue generating activity.
Awesome. Awesome. I want to like open the floor for some questions. Um, do we have anybody that wants to take this time? Maybe you have a question. Um, if you could just raise your hand and start putting them, or you can put them in the chat. And as we wait for that, I think one of the things I wanted you to touch on, Trevor, was um, do so you have this 1099 employee. Do you have any like kind of rule of thumb that you can say, all right, this is definitely a 1099 or this is an employee? What's a quick check that an employer so our audience can say, all right, I have this employee in my company. He or she should be a W-2 employee. And if you guys have questions, you can raise your hands from now or put them in the chat and we'll go through them.
Yeah, I mean, the government has pretty clear-cut rules on W-2 versus 1099, right? I think the big litmus test for it is this your employer or is this not your employee, right? So if I'm coming in every day and I'm doing job functions, and I'm expected to abide by your company's codes and handbook and things of that nature, and especially if this is my only job, probably be a W-2. 1099 say, hey, I mean, I do, and we've seen a lot of home health, and it really depends on the industry as well, but we've seen a lot of home health cares,
Right.
maybe blue collar type jobs, or IT is another big one as well. So if I can do this work for your company, but also do this kind of work for other companies, and or you just hire me to do this particular contract or this particular job or for this particular business that you have a contract with, then I mean, that's a clear 1099. I mean, I'm not under your employee handbook. I'm not your employee. You're just contracting my work out, right? So
Right.
those are clear, just off the cuff. Like I said, it's pretty vague because every industry and every business has specific rules and different things to abide by. But the government is very, very clear on that point. If you're an employee of a business getting paid as a 1099, then you should probably be a W-2. And it really depends on the type of work too, because it is possible to be a W-2 and a 1099, depending on
Right.
what kind
exactly.
of work you do for the company. I could say, hey, I have days, I come in Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and I'm the receptionist. But on, Mondays and Wednesdays, or Mondays and Thursdays, or whatever example I'm giving, I'm out in the field and I'm doing something, contracting for this particular job that we have, right? So you can split it up that way as well, but the government's pretty clear on that.
All right, awesome. Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions, Trevor. I really appreciate your time. Trevor does have a resource. If you want to reach out to him and set up some time to talk, maybe you do have more specific questions. Well, we'll send this out. We'll put it in the chat. Do you have the link right now, Trevor, that we could share?
I'm typing it right now.
Yeah, that we could share with everyone. And we'll also send out an email. Really good information. We're going to be doing, just want to talk about, we have our executive director here as well, but I want to be talking about our next one that we have coming up. Um, Next month, we're going to be doing one on annuities and retirement planning for business owners. So that's something you definitely want um, to register for. We should have that flyer coming up soon. Ken, did you want to say something before I go ahead? I'll throw up the flyer for tomorrow's networking event.
Sure, and that's what I was going to do. Thank you again to Trevor, and thank you, Nelson. And this is kind of cool because we had a webinar earlier today, and I see some folks from the earlier webinar on this webinar. So you guys are really taking advantage of the resources that we are providing for you. So I'm glad to see that. And again, what's up there now is our networking event that takes place tomorrow. It's in partnership with the Montgomery County Women's Business Center and their Shop Local program. So please join us. Our caterer is one of our very own members, and so please come out and have some good eats. And also tomorrow at 4 o'clock we have our second installment of the Elevate Your Brand Marketing series that takes place at 4 o'clock.
Hey, Ken, let me stop and say something on this. I just wanted to say this is one of our members. I just want to highlight that this is he's been working with the chamber for a while, but this is an example of the value of being a member. So if you're not a member and you want to reach our business community, this is a venue. This is your chamber, his chamber, and he took advantage of that. So this is a good event. This is a part series. So if you're looking to elevate your brand, do some marketing, and learn about some marketing for your business, this is a good webinar to attend.
And I'll close with finally, we have started sending out an e-blast every week with our updated events. And in that e-blast, we are highlighting members. So if you are a member and you are a small business owner and you would like to be highlighted in our weekly e-blast, please reach out to myself or Melissa. Melissa, go ahead and put our the info email in the chat. So again, we are doing weekly member highlights. If you are a small business owner and would like to be highlighted in our weekly e-blast, please contact us. Thank you. My email just went into the chat.
Yeah, we got one more I talked about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this one is good. This has been SBA. They've been providing a lot of valuable information for our members. So this one's going to be on August 2nd at 2 p.m. And again, a good thing to follow if you wanted to know what's going on, is yes, our newsletter, our website, but also go ahead and follow our Eventbrite page. You'll get alerts and emails of when we launch a programming that's coming up.
And on this particular event that's flashing, the SBA is sponsoring, and they're doing monthly webinars for us. But each month we partner them with a professional. So this one's going to be on organizational types and other considerations. So what legal structure is important? What are the advantages? What's the factors in selecting? We're going to have a attorney participate with this webinar as well, to be there to add to the content on selecting your organizational type and understanding the pros and cons. So this should be a good event on August 2nd. And again, so as you see, we're just throwing stuff out there. We got a lot of stuff going on, and we are thanking you guys for hanging in there and taking advantage and showing up on a regular basis. And I'll just open it up. If you have any questions of me or Nelson or anybody at this point, we'll entertain questions for a couple of seconds.
Yeah. So, okay,
we have a question from, is that Astrine?
Let's go ahead and
Astrid?
Yes, how are you? So I just had a
Astrid.
question. As a new small business owner, I've just partnered with my husband on a small business. He's ran over 25 years. Is it wise to join this chapter of the chamber, or Prince George's County? Do they have their own? And then I know there's like an overarching one for the state.
Yes, so there are, exactly. So you're going to find we are the Maryland Black Chamber of Commerce. You have the Bi-County Chamber of Commerce. You have the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce, and you have in Prince George's County, you also have the People for Change Chamber of Commerce. And it's really all about checking out what they're doing, if they're providing resources. To me, it's like, there's different types of schools for different types of folks, and so some people belong to multiple chambers. Most people belong to multiple chambers because we kind of have different offerings. You will see that our pillars are connect, educate, and advocate, and so you'll see that we do a lot of networking and we do a lot of webinars and seminars. So if I would say if you like that. Some other chambers are more on the advocacy component. So just kind of check out. And you can, I would add to, we're very inexpensive.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. This is maybe my third webinar you guys have done. And I do find the cost for a year is very affordable. But once you start to join more, it may not be so affordable. So I was just wondering what the difference is. And if you were in one, did you get like access to others, or you had to be members of all different ones?
So I will say to you, we are embarking on creating collaborative MOUs with some other chambers within the state. So stay tuned for that. So we are putting together a program where if you're a member of one, you become a member of the other, or a discounted member of the other. So that's coming.
Thank you.
And I would say too, the cost, you may not want to belong to 10 chambers, but the ability to network and to expose yourself to different people, there is value in that. You just have to figure out the right mix.
Gotcha. Thank you. And Trevor, thank you as well. I thought your webinar was really good, and I will be contacting you. It's the point of me being on here is I wanted to know more about how hiring works.
And I welcome if anyone else has any input on the multiple chamber thing, feel free to share your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of multiple chambers. This one is probably nearest and dearest to my heart. And I do think it's the one that is truly a statewide chamber. Like we reach across, Ken, you're really good with that stat. I think we got as far down as Charles
we
County.
Are as far north as Hartford County and as far south as St. Mary's County. Yep, and as far west as Hagerstown.
Exactly. So we're truly a statewide chamber, and we do have really good partners. Tiffany, you had your hand raised. You can go ahead and um and go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Tiffany.
Okay. I actually have two questions. I've been doing some research on the Maryland supply schedule. I only see that for Prince George's County. Is that accurate? That you only do a supply schedule similar to like a GSA exclusively in PG?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Are you saying, is there a location where you can go and find out what procurement opportunities are available to you?
No. A GSA supply schedule. And I'm looking on that on a state level. And in Maryland, I'm only seeing that as an available option in PG. Is that accurate?
No, that would be statewide.
It would be statewide.
Right. And so if you email me, we just finished up our 5-part series with doing business with the state of Maryland. I can give you their links and their contact information to their website. There's a plethora of information on, they have all kind of training sessions on how to get procurement throughout the state.
Okay. I also wanted to know, Maryland is not my home state for my business. I wanted to know if I want to get an MBE, do I have to get it through DDOT, or is there Maryland Department of Transportation, or is there another avenue that I can go through for an MBE?
To the best of my knowledge, you don't have to be a Maryland resident, but you can go through MDOT and they will certify out of state folks for the MBE through MDOT.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate the engagement. Trevor had to jump off. But those of you who said you wanted to reach out, please use that link to schedule a call. Those, and if you do, we have these webinars and we invite people. But if you do have questions and you do want to connect with them, please take advantage. To them, it shows the value of companies like theirs being a partner of our chamber. And ultimately that's what they're looking for, to help our businesses to connect and do business with our businesses. So when you do connect with them, make sure you mention the chamber. And just thank you guys for your support and for joining.
Thank you, Nelson.
All right, thanks, guys.
Nelson and